Good evening, and welcome to the Crypto Overnighter. I'm Nicodemus, and I will be your host as we take a look at the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. And remember, none of this is financial advice. And it's 10 p.m. Pacific on Wednesday, October 4th, 2023. Welcome back to the Crypto Overnighter, where we have no sponsors, no hidden agendas, and no BS. But we do have the news, so let's talk about that. Tonight, we delve into a series of pivotal legal and regulatory moves that are shaping the crypto landscape, from Ripple's courtroom victory and the SEC's broadening grip to shifts in U.S. political power and international surveillance efforts. Buckle up, because it's a ride through the judiciary, the Hill, and the cryptic corridors of global finance. The U.S. Securities Exchange Commission, the agency that's been a thorn in the side of crypto, recently faced a significant setback. Judge Torres rejected the SEC's motion for an interlocutory appeal against Ripple. For those unfamiliar, an interlocutory appeal is an appeal made during a trial. The SEC wanted this to challenge a previous ruling that partially favored Ripple. Judge Torres stated that the SEC failed to meet its burden under the law to show that there were controlling questions of law or that there were substantial grounds for differences of opinion. In simpler terms, the SEC couldn't convince the judge that their appeal was necessary or that it would advance the case in any meaningful way. The trial is set for April 23, 2024, and any appeal by the SEC must wait until after the trial concludes. Legal experts are divided on the impact of this decision. Some see it as a major win for Ripple, while others urge caution. Bill Hughes, a lawyer at blockchain firm Consensus, stated that it's not typical for such an appeal to make it through at this stage of a trial. On the flip side, crypto lawyer Jeremy Hogan called the decision a disaster for the SEC. Gabriel Shapiro, general counsel at Delphi Labs, warned crypto advocates not to get too excited. He clarified that the SEC still could appeal the case later. However, Scott Chamberlain, an entrepreneurial fellow at the ANU College of Law, argued that the SEC is now stuck with a weak factual record, making a successful appeal more difficult. The SEC initially filed a lawsuit against Ripple and its executives in 2020, accusing them of raising $1.3 billion through the sale of XRP. The agency also sued CEO Brad Garlinghouse and co-founder Christian Larson. Judge Torres previously ruled that some of Ripple's sales of XRP did not violate securities laws, but other direct sales to institutional investors were securities, leaving a partial win for the SEC. Now, what does this mean for crypto? Well, it's another example of the SEC failing to clamp down on a major player in the crypto space. Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse took to social media to express his enthusiasm. And why wouldn't he? The SEC's been handed a defeat, and it's a win for those who champion financial freedom and decentralization. Ripple's courtroom victory is definitely an eyebrower. The SEC just got a reality check. But just as one regulatory leviathan stumbles, another tries to stretch its tentacles. Buckle up as we dive into the SEC's latest power play. The SEC asked a federal judge to deny Coinbase's motion to dismiss its lawsuit. The regulator argues that Coinbase knew the cryptocurrencies it sold were securities under the Howey test. The SEC's audacity here is staggering. They claim that each crypto asset issuer led investors to expect an increase in asset value. According to them, this makes those asset securities subject to SEC registration. Now, let's not kid ourselves. The SEC is trying to stretch the Howey test to fit their narrative. They want to regulate the crypto market without waiting for Congress to give them the permission to do so. Coinbase's legal chief fired back. He stated that the assets listed on Coinbase were not securities and thus not within the SEC's jurisdiction. He even went on to say that the SEC's arguments would mean everything from Pokemon cards to stamps could be considered securities. And he's right. I used to collect Magic the Gathering cards back in the day. I even made a little money at it. That said, they're not securities. According to Miles Jennings, the SEC's motion is just riddled with holes. Jennings is the crypto legal counsel at A16Z. Even if the court agrees with the SEC's main argument, their case could still fail. The SEC's definition of an investment contract, he argues, has endless breadth. Coinbase has been clear. Crypto trades do not meet the definition of an investment contract because no actual contract is established. The SEC, however, argues that a formal contract isn't a prerequisite. The SEC also tried to deflect the blame. They're claiming that Coinbase is just trying to distract from the fatal flaws in their own legal arguments. They even went so far as to say that just because they allowed Coinbase to go public doesn't mean they endorsed the trading on that platform. The SEC's move to deny Coinbase's motion to dismiss this lawsuit is a clear signal of the regulator's intent to tighten its grip on the crypto industry. The SEC is not backing down. Instead, it's doubling down on its belief that cryptocurrencies can be classified as securities under the Howey test. This is a pivotal moment, one that could set a precedent for how cryptocurrencies are regulated in the US. Coinbase, on the other hand, is not taking this lying down. Their legal team is pushing back hard, arguing that the SEC's broad interpretation of the Howey test is overreaching. But let's be real here. The SEC isn't just targeting Coinbase for fun. They're sending a message to the entire crypto industry: comply or face the consequences. This case is a glaring example of the SEC's overreach. They're trying to regulate a space they have no business being in. It's a power grab, plain and simple. And it's not just Coinbase that should be worried. If the SEC gets its way, the entire crypto industry could be at risk. So what's at stake? The court's interpretation of the Howey test. Is it Coinbase with its narrower view, or the SEC, which wants a flexible and broad interpretation? This case could set a precedent that impacts the entire crypto market. The SEC's bid to control the crypto narrative is both audacious and revealing. And if you thought Ripple's case was a lone battlefield, think again. With the SEC's eye on Coinbase, the stakes couldn't be higher. But there's a shift in the tectonic plates of US politics that could ripple through these regulatory showdowns. Hold on tight, you don't want to miss this. And this is our cover for tonight. Representative Patrick McHenry, a Republican from North Carolina, has temporarily taken over as Speaker of the House. This comes after the dramatic ouster of Kevin McCarthy, also a Republican. McHenry is no stranger to the crypto space. He chairs the House Financial Services Committee, which has been hard at work on crypto bills. One bill aims to regulate U.S. stablecoins, and another seeks to establish rules for the crypto markets. These bills have cleared his committee and are expected to be brought up for floor votes soon. McHenry's ascendancy could be a game changer. The Speaker sets the legislative agenda. With McHenry at the helm, we could see these crypto bills fast-tracked. But let's not forget the Senate. It's one thing for the House to approve. It's another for the Senate to give the green light. Now, McHenry has shown some disdain towards the SEC. Just last week, he threatened a subpoena against the SEC Chair Gary Gensler. He accused Gensler of not being transparent with Congress regarding his interactions with the bankrupt crypto exchange FTX. McHenry's confrontational stance could be a thorn in the side of the SEC, which has been notorious for its regulation by enforcement approach. The temporary appointment of Patrick McHenry as the Speaker of the House is a pivotal moment for the crypto community. McHenry isn't just another politician. He's a staunch advocate for digital assets and has been at the forefront of pushing for sensible crypto regulations. His role as the chairman of the House Financial Services Committee has already given him a platform to advance crypto-friendly bills. Now, as the Speaker, even if it's only temporary, he has the power to expedite these bills, setting the legislative agenda for the entire House. But let's not forget the circumstances that led to this. The ousting of Kevin McCarthy was a dramatic event, fueled by internal power struggles within the Republican Party. It's a reminder that the political landscape is volatile, and McHenry's position, although influential, is not permanent. The House is already looking for a new Speaker, and names like Tom Emmer are being floated around. Emmer is another crypto-friendly figure, but the question remains, how long will this crypto-friendly atmosphere last in the House? The SEC, led by Chair Gensler, has been less than transparent, especially when it comes to their dealings with crypto exchanges like FTX. McHenry's confrontational approach towards the SEC could signal a shift in how the government agency is being held accountable. This is crucial for the crypto community, which has long felt targeted by ambiguous and sudden regulatory actions. McHenry's temporary role as Speaker could be a boon for crypto, but it's a race against time and Senate approval. His confrontational stance against the SEC is a sign of pushback against regulatory overreach. And with potential successors like Emmer, the House could become a stronghold for crypto advocacy. With McHenry temporarily in the Speaker seat, we might just see some crypto-friendly winds blowing through the Capitol. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows in the crypto space. The fentanyl crisis exposes a dark underbelly that regulators are eager to tackle. Let's dive into these murky waters. The U.S. Department of Justice charged several Chinese firms and individuals for their role in the production and distribution of fentanyl. And guess what? They used cryptocurrency to move their funds. The Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control stepped in. They've sanctioned a list of Chinese nationals and identified 16 associated crypto wallets. They said that these blocked wallets received millions over hundreds of deposits. This is not small change. It's a large-scale operation. The DOJ targeted a Florida network of 28 businesses and individuals. They're accused of producing fentanyl and methamphetamine and selling precursor chemicals. These companies have been using cryptocurrency transactions to conceal their identities and the movement of their funds. This is a calculated move to evade law enforcement. The Chinese firms have been using various tactics to evade law enforcement, including using reshippers in the US, false return labels, and fraudulent postage. They've been shipping fentanyl and methamphetamine precursors globally. These chemicals are then mixed by drug cartels and distributed in the US. Fentanyl is a killer, literally. It's the leading cause of death for Americans between the ages of 18 and 49. From February 2022 to January, at least 105,263 Americans died of drug overdoses involving synthetic opioids like fentanyl. Senator Elizabeth Warren has called for new laws to shut down this pipeline of digital payments. But let's be honest, the government's sudden interest in cracking down on crypto isn't just about saving lives, it's about control. They're using this crisis as an opportunity to tighten regulations around cryptocurrency. Crypto's role in the fentanyl trade gives ammo to those itching for tighter regulations. But if you think the US government is the only entity keeping tabs on crypto, brace yourselves. The Bank for International Settlements has entered the chat. The Bank for International Settlements teamed up with European central banks to launch Project Atlas. This isn't some benign map of the heavens. It's a data project designed to track international flows of cryptocurrencies and decentralized finance protocols. Project Atlas is a proof-of-concept initiative that aims to gauge the macroeconomic relevance of crypto markets. It's a joint effort involving the Deutsche Bundesbank, Der Nederlandsche Bank, the European Central Bank, and the Bank of France. The project combines off-chain data from crypto exchanges with on-chain data from public blockchains. The initial focus is on Bitcoin transactions, but plans are in place to expand to Ethereum and DeFi protocols. Cecilia Skillingsley is the head of BIS Innovation Hub. She claims that this data will serve as a public good for central banks, but let's not kid ourselves. This is a surveillance tool, plain and simple. It's a way for central banks to gain insights into markets they've long struggled to understand. Beyond that, the BIS openly states that Project Atlas could underpin future crypto regulations. The BIS also warns that crypto data can be manipulated or distorted. They cite figures suggesting that up to 70% of activity on some exchanges is wash trading. While centralized exchanges like Binance have tried to offer some transparency, the BIS sees this as an opportunity for data-driven supervision. So, right after saying that data can be manipulated or distorted, the BIS is going to advocate for data-driven supervision? It sounds kind of tone-deaf. So, what's the big picture here? Central banks are uneasy about the rise of crypto and DeFi. They're concerned about the risks that these pose to financial stability. Project Atlas is their way of getting a grip on these elusive markets. But let's be clear, this really isn't about protecting you or me. It's about the central banks maintaining their control in the financial system, because what they fear most is the loss of control. In its current form, Project Atlas features dashboards that visualize data aggregation and analysis, including on-chain transfers and global fund movements. It aims to provide an overview of cross-border flows and will help central banks evaluate the economic significance of the crypto ecosystem across different jurisdictions. Project Atlas has surveillance written all over it. While it's touted as a tool for the public good, we know better. Don't let your guard down yet. This crypto saga takes yet another twist. The Bank of Korea partners with none other than the BIS for a new CDBC pilot. Stay with me, this next segment is a doozy. Like I said, we're diving into the Bank of Korea's recent announcement to test a wholesale central bank digital currency in partnership with the Bank for International Settlements. The Bank of Korea has laid out the details of this pilot program, which aims to assess the feasibility of a monetary system built on wholesale CDBCs. The pilot will test the use of a wholesale CDBC as a settlement asset for commercial bank tokenized deposits. It will also explore the programmability of these tokenized deposits. Now, let's talk about the players involved, because this isn't a solo act by the bank. The Financial Services Commission and the Financial Supervisory Service of the Republic of Korea are also in the mix, providing oversight. The BIS is lending its expertise, making this a collaborative international effort. Now, why is this significant? The BOK has already conducted retail CDBC trials, but concluded that a retail CDBC isn't currently necessary. Thank you. However, they're not closing the door on CDBC technology. They're exploring wholesale CDBCs, which are targeted at financial institutions, unlike retail CDBCs that are for the general public. Now, here's where it gets interesting. This pilot comes amid the BIS's development of a unified ledger concept. This blueprint integrates CDBCs, digital money from commercial banks, and tokenized assets into a single programmable network. The unified ledger aims to transform supply chain financing and eliminate free riding through smart contracts. So, what's the big picture? The BOK is clearly positioning itself for a future where CDBCs could play a significant role. They're not just sitting on the sidelines, they're actively participating in shaping what the future of money could look like. But let's not forget, the government and the central banks have a track record that's less than stellar when it comes to financial freedom and privacy. The involvement of the BIS, the central bank for central bankers, raises questions about the global centralization of financial systems. Is this a step towards more centralization in the future under the guise of technological advancement? Time will tell. So, what happened? In the legal sphere, Ripple managed to fend off the SEC, at least for now. The judge ruled against the SEC's appeal, leaving the agency waiting until after the trial to make their next move. This could be a sign of shifting tides in the regulatory landscape. Speaking of the SEC, they're not backing down from their showdown with Coinbase. The regulator is seeking to stretch the Howey test to classify cryptocurrencies as securities, but Coinbase is hitting back, challenging this overreach. On Capitol Hill, Representative Patrick McHenry temporarily takes the Speaker's chair. His role could fast-track crypto-friendly legislation, but it's a volatile political landscape, so nothing is guaranteed. The dark side of crypto rears its ugly head as the Department of Justice targets Chinese firms linked to fentanyl distribution, all facilitated through cryptocurrency transactions. The U.S. government is using this as a pretext to call for tighter crypto regulations. Globally, the Bank for International Settlements is launching Project Atlas. It's a crypto tracking initiative that has surveillance written all over it, raising concerns about the future of financial privacy. Finally, the Bank of Korea steps into the CDBC arena, partnering with the BIS to test a wholesale central bank digital currency. This pilot program could be a gateway to a future filled with programmable, centralized digital currencies. The overarching theme tonight is the increasing intertwining of crypto with legal and political institutions. From Ripple's courtroom drama to the SEC's attempts to assert control, it's evident that regulators are keen on having a say in the crypto space. The rise of Patrick McHenry to the Speaker of the House could bring a brief period of crypto-friendly policy, but the clock is ticking. Meanwhile, on the international front, the launch of Project Atlas and Korea's CDBC pilots signal a concerted effort by centralized banks to stake their claim in the crypto world. These events are not isolated. They're part of a larger narrative where crypto's decentralized nature is being tested against the centralized mechanisms of government and international finance. The outcomes of these legal battles, legislative moves, and international projects will either open new avenues for crypto or build walls that limit its potential. It's a complex dance, and the next steps will have lasting impacts. Make sure you're tuned in because this story is far from over. And that's going to do it for us tonight. I want to thank you, my listeners, because when you stop listening, I will stop talking. If you enjoyed tonight's show, then please like, follow, subscribe, leave a rating, or maybe a review. And in the meantime, we'll see you tomorrow night.